Hey everybody, it is time once again for the Rankening. We are going to continue with my epic journey through my collection of games, ranking them 2 games at a time using the Pub Meeple ranking engine, which I cannot recommend highly enough. Folks, if you have a list of things of anything in your life and you would like to sort them all by what you like the most and the least, and you want to do it via a very methodical and scientific method, head over to pubmeeple.com, put your list in, and do what I'm doing. There's a link for it down in the show notes if you want. Thank you to the folks who maintain it. Anyway, though, when last we left our hero, me, I think we were at a cliffhanger. Spirits of the Rice Paddy versus Raw. One of the greatest auction games of all time from Reiner Knizia, one of the greatest designers of all game, versus a very, very cool, what would you call it? It really kind of defies description. A game about managing water levels in rice paddy, keeping certain of your fields flooded so that the rice can grow and it can be harvested, but then emptying it out so the water can move from one place to another. But be careful, if you can't maintain control of the water, it will leave your board and go to your opponent's board so they can start using it. These are both great games. And, you know, I feel like maybe at the beginning I should have done a better job at clarifying for myself exactly how I was rating things. Because strictly speaking, just based on there is no such thing as objective quality of game design, but as close as you can get to that, I think Raw is the superior design because it does more with less. It's so cool and smooth the way it works. But if you put both games in front of me on the table, I'd want to play Rice Paddy because, well, one, I've played Raw more than Rice Paddy, but even putting that aside, Rice Paddy has so much variety built in with this big old deck of cards with all kinds of really cool special powers. Granted, some of those special powers are kind of aggressive and can screw with your opponents. Hey, I'm going to send Pestilence over to your Paddy, so you got to deal with that in addition to managing your water levels and all of that. Although it's interesting, as I recall, I complained about it at the time, and the developers, the publishers, ultimately put a Rahdo variant in the rule book to make it less aggressive between players. And so, in some small part, I mean, I've got a design credit on Spirits of the Rice Paddy. Yeah. I mean, again, I would say Raw is the better design, but I would rather play Spirits of the Rice Paddy if you put both of them on the table. So, I'm going to go Rice Paddy and probably upset a lot of people. Folks, if you disagree with anything I'm talking about today, let me know down in the show notes, or let me know when you agree, or let me know what you thought, or what did I forget about, or what did I miss. A lot of these games, actually, most of these games I have not played for years and years, so I'm going on, dim recollection in some cases. But my brain is imperfect, as you know, if you're a longtime viewer of the show. But we got to keep going. I got what I got. So next up, Sentient versus Praga Kaput Regni. Now, it'd be a no-brainer if Jen were here. I mean, she loves the Praga, and Praga is absolutely fantastic. But Sentient deserves a little bit of love, too. It is, what would you call it? It's a far future post-scarcity world where AI takes care of all of humanity's needs, but humanity does still need to try to exert control and programming over the AI. I mean, I'm trying to describe the theme, but it is a largely abstract, puzzly game where you've got a group of dice numbered 1 through 6. They're 6-sided dice, and every turn you're going to draft a card that represents programming you're doing to your dice, and you're going to put it between 2 dice, and it's going to increase the values of those dice or decrease the values of either of the dice that you put your card between. But then that card also says to run this particular program well, the 2 dice that surround this have to both be odds, or they have to, when added together, be greater than 6 or whatever. And, I want to put this here because I want to change this die. I want to turn this 4 into a 5 because it'll help this program that's over here, but then this program I'm putting won't actually work. And it's a fiendishly clever little puzzle. Really smart. Super simple to teach and play. I really like it a lot. But Praga Kaput Regni is one of Divider Vladimir Suki's greatest designs of all time. It is a multi-use, or no, not multi-use, it is an entwined tile drafting game where you've got this really cool physical wheel that tiles that have multiple uses on them are rotating around, and they're getting cheaper over time, and you want to grab a tile that lets you do what you want to do, but depending on where it is on the wheel, it also will unlock a bonus action you can do, and it's all about building up the city of Prague, focusing on getting buildings out there or extending the bridge, all kinds of things. It's a big, crunchy, heavy game. It is exactly the kind of thing Jen and I love. So while I so admire Senshin, and I think it's a wonderful little puzzle of a game, I'm gonna have to give it to Praga, Kaput Regni. Okay, then we got Aquatica versus Noctiluca. Okay. So, Aquatica is a super awesome engine builder card drafting game set under the sea in kind of an Atlantis merfolk realm where the cards you grab, they have multiple stages of what they will do on them. First it'll do this action, then this action, then this action, then this action over time. And these actions are gathering resources, converting resources into points, all that kind of stuff. And what you do is when you grab a card, you put it on your own player board, and over time, one of the actions you can do that are often triggered by other cards is you can take that card and slide it into your player board, because you have a dual layer player board where there's a slit, and the cards literally slide in. And it's a dumb little thing. They could have done this a million different ways, but it is so physically satisfying to be able to just, because you want to get these cards pushed all the way in, because then that basically means they are spent, they've done all their stuff, and you can basically convert them into points and put them in a storage space and all of that. And there's a bunch of stuff going on with all kinds of special powers for the different merfolk royalty and all of that. But yeah, really, it's hard. It's an engine building game. We've got all these different cards in different stages of being exploited by being pushed into these slits and activation stages, and if I activate that will let me activate that thing, which will give me the stuff that I can buy that to activate the other thing. You can create really cool combo moves, plus it's gorgeous. It's just beautiful to look at. Versus Noctiluca, which is a fairly abstract game. It's a board that is full. I mean, both these games are just drop dead stunningly gorgeous. But Aquatica is beautiful because of the art. Noctiluca is beautiful because of the components. The game comes with just a big bag full of beautiful, translucent, colorful dice, and they get scattered across. I'm trying to remember what the setting is. It's so abstract. Is it like a coral reef or something? But basically, the board is full of all these dice. And every turn, you are going to grab dice on a given, they're on diagonals, rows or columns, and you're trying to get certain dice together. And it's basically a dice drafting game where you care about the values of the dice, you care about the colors of the dice, but you also care about the relative position of the dice, because, hey, if I'm going to grab stuff out of this column, I could get this and this and this. Do those work well together? And it's a simple abstract game. From Shem Phillips, by the way, the designer of the West Kingdom series and all of that, or the co-designer. So it's a great abstract game. But Aquatica, I have to admit, as beautiful it is very abstract. The theme is practically not there at all. Whereas Aquatica is a nice, thematic, crunchy engine building Euro. So for my taste, I think I got to give it to Aquatica. Pandemic, Rapid Response versus Feierabend, which, if I recall correctly, is German for finishing time. It's a special German word that has to do with that magic hour when you get to go home. After a long day's work, Feierabend is the time you get to spend away from work, if I recall correctly. It's been a long time on all of these things, folks. Apologies if I get that wrong. From Friedman Freeze, Feierabend is a very cool worker placement game that kind of flips worker placement on its head, because at the beginning of the game, all the workers are already on the board because they're at work in the factory. And on your turn, you're going to take those workers and say, okay, it's finishing time for you. It's Feierabend. You get to leave and go home. And what you do is you put them on different activities they get to do in their leisure time, whether it's hanging out with family or going on vacation or heading down to the pub or whatever. And this gives them different levels of fulfillment, relaxation points, and all of that. And eventually, once all of your workers have been pulled off the main board to do all these other actions, eventually, Fire Robin is over. Now everybody's got to go back to work. So it's just kind of the opposite of a regular place. I've got all my workers off to the side, and then I send them to the board, and then once they're all done, they all come back. It's just kind of the reverse of that, which is kind of clever and fun. But what really makes Fire Robin special is, I didn't mention, when you're sending them out to a vacation or whatever, one of the things you can do with your workers is not let them relax, not let them hang out at the pub or with their family or whatever. Instead, they can go on strike. And if you have enough workers on strike, that means you're not making money, which is what they do when they're in the factory, and they're not at home relaxing. They're basically doing nothing for you. But if you put which represents when workers go on strike, they are putting their own personal lives in financial jeopardy because they're not making money anymore. They're they're under a lot of stress because will they be able to pay their bills? Will they get kicked out of their home? But through communal action, if you get enough of your workers on strike, that can unlock very cool, powerful bonus abilities you have for the rest of the game. Making more money or various and sundry things. And that is so cool. It is so richly thematic, and I think it's such an important message. And I love it when games can actually sort of introduce and educate us to the real world workings that maybe we don't give much thought about. And I think this game is such a wonderful representation of unionized labor and how that can be such a powerful force for good. If people are willing to put aside their own needs for the collective good, then everybody's boat rise. And this game demonstrates it in real time. And it does it through really fun kind of reverse worker placement gameplay. So I respect the heck out of it. I was about to say a much stronger word, but I'm just going to... but anyway, yeah, I think it's amazing. Meanwhile, Pandemic Rapid Response is it's not really pandemic at all. It's pandemic themed because you are a group of scientists racing around the world to fight disease and whatnot. I guess you could kind of think of it almost as a game of rapid response represents just like 2 or 3 turns of pandemic. You know how in pandemic, sometimes you just fly from one city to another and then you take care of some cubes? This whole game is about the flying. From one place to another, because you spend most of the game on the airplane that gets our people around, and it's real time. So it's a real time sort of worker placement game where we are, cooperatively trying to, steer this plane, get it into the right ports of call where we need to do stuff, move our characters around from one department of the plane to the other to be able to do different things. And when it's my turn, I've only got a few seconds to spend my actions and get stuff done, and then it's got to be up to you. And this game is incredibly high tension, because a lot of times cooperative real-time games, everybody gets to go at the same time and everybody's just working on it. But in this game, when it comes to me, everybody's just sitting there waiting for me to go. And like, what are you doing? And if you panic, if you freeze, like, I can do so many things. What am I supposed to do? Which is why you're supposed to be spending all your time when it's not your turn, getting it straight. What am I going to do when it's my turn? So that when I go, just boom, boom, boom. But then somebody else does what you were going to do. Oh. Well, what am I going to do now? You redirected us to, Buenos Aires. I was close to the nose. I was going to do that. And it's fun. It's thematic. It's tension-filled. It's from Kane Klenko, the designer of Fuse and several other games, so it's really good too. But these two games, they could not be much different. Pandemic Rapid Response is more fun, right? Because it's fast, it's in your face, it's players working together to overcome impossible odds, racing against the clock. Fire Robin is a competitive game, even though it is about, union labor and all of that. It's almost kind of odd that it's a competitive game. But we're competing to make better lives for our workforce. I think, geez. I want to stop right here and do a cliffhanger, but no, I'm only a few in. I got to do more than this. So, well, okay, again, if I just stop and think, if I put aside how much I admire and respect Fire Robin, if you just put both of them on the table, which one would I rather play? It's gonna be Pandemic Rapid Response. Oh, but again, folks, I cannot stress how incredible Fire Robin is, how I think important it is. My hats off to Friedman Freeze and everybody who worked on it. Okay, then we've got the black sheep of the Steffenfeld family, Carpe Diem versus Rival Networks, which is the 2-player dual version of the networks. Now, here's the deal. Strictly speaking, it should go to Carpe Diem. Carpe Diem is literally one of designer Steffenfeld's best designs ever, as far as I'm concerned. I absolutely love it. It's like kind of like a top 5 of his best designs. The problem is, I'm judging it based on its original edition printing. What happened is a few people on Board Game Geek and Twitter complained, boy, it's really kind of dumb. This was done this way. Could it be done a different way? And Steffenfeld got online and said, yeah, I guess it would work that way. I guess it doesn't really change much of anything. But I designed it the way I designed it because I like it that way. And then Ravensburger said, okay, small group of people on Board Game Geek, we're going to fundamentally change this game to the way you wanted it and then do a stealth 2.0 version without even telling anybody. And so if you go out and buy Carpe Diem now, unless you can find what is probably a very rare beast, the original version of the game, you're playing an altered version that, for my money, makes the game no longer in Steffenfeld's. It's still a good game, but it is nowhere near the top of the Steffenfeld arena. So here's the deal. I am going to rank Carpe Diem, which I didn't mention is a very cool tile drafting, although, what would you call it? The way you get the tiles that you're then going to place as you're trying to build up your Roman era colony in Germania, I believe, is where it's set. Has to do with, kind of this, well, there's this board where you're grabbing tiles, and strictly speaking, in a mathematical sense, they did not change the way the draft works, but functionally, they changed it such that it weakens some of the elements of the game, and it simply makes the game less fun. And so, judged on that, on the version that you could go out and buy now, as opposed to the way Steffenfeld originally designed it, the way it was originally released, I'm going to have to give it to the Rival Networks. I think the Rival Networks is better than the quasi-official 2.0 of Carpe Diem. What is the Rival Networks? I didn't even spend any time talking about it. Well, the Networks is a fantastic card drafting game about running your own TV network and trying to program shows on multiple nights, getting the right scripts, combined with the right actors, combined with the right ads to do really well. The Rival Networks takes network and just streamlines it down into a 2-player only game where we're just trying to put on 3 shows for one night. We're just trying to program one night, and it's an entwined drafting game where every turn now, hey, I really want to grab that star, but if I grab that star, it's associated with that ad, and that ad is useless for me. So am I going to sacrifice on getting a good ad for myself, or am I going to sacrifice on getting the perfect star? And it just works great. I can't say it's as good as Networks, especially because Networks has a lot of really cool expansions and whatnot, but it is fantastic too. I mean, these are both great games, but I'm going to have to give it to Rival Networks. But if you could somehow get the original version before they changed the board and changed some of the rules, I'd go with Carpe Diem. Okay. Quest of Valeria versus Angkor. And now, I believe this is not the first Valeria game I've talked about in this series. And the problem is, Quests of Valeria and Villages of Valeria really kind of merge in my head in the same way. And I believe I previously talked about Villages of Valeria, but when I was talking about it, I don't know, Brock, in episode 1 or 2 or something of the Rankening, I was, in my head, I had Quests of Valeria. Because Quests of Valeria is the simpler, straightforward game where every turn you just get to do a couple of actions. You're trying to basically draft cards. Every time you draft a card, you get to activate a power on it. You're trying to get the right group of cards to be able to fulfill recipes, i.e. the quests that needs 2 clerics and a wizard or a warrior or whatever. When you complete those quests, that will trigger other bonuses. And the interesting thing about Quests of Valeria, which I mistakenly referred to earlier as Villages of Valeria, is on your turn, you only get to do 2 actions. The entirety of this game can be summed up in a very simple, player aid, quite frankly. And yet, the turns, this has got to be one of the most explosively combinatorial games out there. You're seeing this more and more and more ever since the success of Gone Shown Clever with roll and writes, where, I do a thing and that lets you do a thing and a thing and a thing and a thing, bing, 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 bing. Quest of Valeria was way ahead of the curve, doing this not in a roll and write, but in a card drafting game. And it's fantastic. Anyway, Encore, on the other hand, is basically, it's an odd thing. It's kind of a Splendor killer from the publisher of Splendor. It's, there's two reasons to draw comparisons between it and Splendor. One, they're both from the same publisher, and two, they both feature wonderful poker chips that are way overproduced. They did not need to come with poker chips. The poker chips are awesome in Encore and Splendor, and they really enhance the quality of the game. Now, the game itself, and in both games, most of the time, you are on your turn just saying, there's a whole bunch of poker chips that represent different resources. I'm going to grab some combination of them. I'm going to grab another combination of them. I'm going to grab another combination. My third turn, boom, I'm going to spend some of this stuff and get a card in Splendor. In this game, boom, I'm going to spend some of all these resources I've been drafting, and I'm going to get a tile. And then it gets into the tiling portion of the game, which is very, very cool, because we're trying to get tiles and these tiles have lots of special powers that unlock when you use them and whatnot. But the important thing is you place these tiles next to each other, trying to get bigger and bigger groups of the same type, whether they are, I don't even remember what they are now, scarabs and onks and stuff like that, from ancient Egypt. But the important thing is the tiles can spread outwards, but you can also stack the tiles on top of existing ones. So it's kind of a three-dimensional tile layer combined with the really simple, smooth, streamlined gameplay of Splendor. But whereas Splendor is kind of a game where, hey, the more stuff I get, then I basically just get more powerful over time. This game doesn't do that quite as much. Instead, it focuses on a very, very cool tiling thing. And honestly, I think it's a Splendor killer. I think it's a lot more engaging and fun and thought-provoking than Splendor, while still being just as smooth and clean. So it's interesting that these two came up to each other. They are both fast games. These are both filler length and comparable weight games. So again, if you put both of them on the table, which one would I go for? I mean, I'm inclined to go with Encore because tiling is one of my favorite things. But the Quest of Valeria, it is so satisfying to pull off a turn where, just based on the two actions I got, I ended up doing 7 or 8 actions worth of stuff I've saved up for. It just works so well. And again, this has become much more common these days, but still, Quest of Valeria is one of the best examples of it I've ever seen. Plus, not for nothing, I love art by the Miko. I just love looking at his art. So I'm going to give it to Quest of Valeria. Okay, then we've got Oak versus Elysium. Alrighty. Oak is a very, very cool worker placement game where you have a party of druids that you're going to send out to do druidy, communing with nature type stuff. And the thing that really makes it, there's a couple things that make it unique. One, you can't just send your workers wherever you want. You have a hand of cards. It says, when I play a worker, I play one of the cards in my hand. So you're really kind of restricted based on what cards you have in your hand at the moment, what you can actually do. Although there are ways to get around that. But you really want to make the cards and the workers, work well together. The other thing is, it's so cool. It comes with nice little druid meeples, but it also comes with these very, very cool snap-on things that, you can put a pouch hanging over a druid's shoulder, and then they become I remember one was a lute, and then they become a bard, and one was I think they become a messenger or something like that. But anyway, you can upgrade your workers, so they do really cool super stuff, but only if you, almost game-breakingly powerful things, but they only do their cool things if you send them to specific places. Otherwise, they're still just regular druids. So you've got this upgradable workforce that's just fantastic. So Oak is neat. But Elysium is one of the greatest modern card game designs of all time, where we are the pantheon of, is it Greek gods? I think it's Greek gods, not Roman gods. We're up on Mount Olympus looking at the mortals, drafting cards that represent all facets of human society. And the interesting thing is bringing them over to us so that they kind of, they're on our side. They worship us. We've spoken to them. They're on board for us, and they give us access to special powers, right? They're still in the mortal realm, but they give us access to all these powers. Sooner or later, what you want to do is you want to take these cards from your little active area, move them across a line, and literally bring them up to join us in Mount Olympus so you can score those cards. And the thing is, You don't want to do that because you want to keep them active so they can do more stuff and combine with all the other cards. But sooner or later, you have to give up your powerful cards and bring them over so they'll score you points at the end of the game. There's a lot of games that do this. I see it in a lot of deck builders. It's a deck deconstruction kind of thing. And Elysium, it's just absolutely amazing. And what's a real criminal shame is the designers of it long ago came up with a fully fledged out expansion for it, and then the publisher never published it. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again every time I talk about Elysium. Designers. Is it Dunstan and Gilbert who designed this? Is that right? I think it is. Guys, I want Elysium 2 so bad. Come to me. I will start my own board game publishing company to go on Kickstarter and make the expansion for Elysium happen because it's so good. So, with that in mind, folks, that probably gives you an idea of how I feel about these two things relative to each other. And yeah, I mean, Oak is fantastic, but it's got to go to Elysium. Okay. Ooh. Oh, now this is different. Okay. Merv, Heart of the Silk Road versus Aeon's End. Aeon's End, I mean, I've talked about this so much over the years. I've played so much Aeon's End. It is a cooperative fantasy deck building game where you have more control over your deck than any other deck builder in the industry. And it's fantastic. There's so many things. It's had 2 different legacy spin-offs. It's got a new science fiction spin-off called Astronauts. And it's just absolutely awesome. Merv, Heart of the Silk Road, is from a relatively newer designer, Fabio Lopiano. Fabio, who has really been making a name for himself. And this, I think, was his first game where I thought, oh, that's good. Wow, this is amazing. It is about the city of Merv, which was at the heart of the Silk Road, back in its heyday. And it's a really... It's a game, a worker placement game, I guess, where players are so intertwined because we're actually working together to build up Merv, which is represented by this grid of building spaces in the center of the board. And what happens is we've got our worker meeple that they orbit around this grid. And on my turn, I'm going to move my worker so far along this, and wherever I land, that means several things. First of all, that's going to determine player order in the next round. It also determines what row I'm going to get access to when I'm deciding, or column, depending on where I am as I orbit around this grid, where I'm deciding either where I'm going to build my own buildings or where I'm going to activate your buildings. And the thing is, this is a game where and because I've done that, all of a sudden you can't activate your building because I'm blocking you and you got to go do something else. And that may sound kind of aggressive, but it's not, because this game is so much about, hey, I built this building in this spot specifically so you'll come and activate it because I get as many benefits out of you working it as you do. And so this game is all about smart building up your own stuff or building up your opponent's stuff, or using your opponent's stuff. The 2-player game has a really great automated dummy player that creates other opportunities, and it's fantastic. These are both great games. And if you were to ask me which one I would play, I'd probably go with Merv, because I have played, do I want to say hundreds of hours of Aeon's End? I don't know about that, but I have played a lot of Aeon's End over the years. Whereas Merv, I would love to spend more time with Merv. But one of the reasons I'm going to go with Aeon's End is because even though I've spent so many, maybe hundreds of hours, I'm still excited to go back. And that is the label of one of the true all-time greats. Aeon's End is amazing. Merv is too. That's a tough one, but it's going to be Aeon's End. Okay. Now we've got Glenmore versus Spirit Island. Spirit Island is a cooperative game. It's kind of the reverse of Settlers of Catan. Imagine Settlers of Catan, where you don't play the settlers, you play Catan, the island, the spirits, who are supposed to protect the people, the native inhabitants of the island. And yes, settlers are coming and they're building towns and cities and destroying the land. Now they think they're just, we're bringing society to this wild land, and we're turning into farmland so people can grow and prosper and all of that. But That's the settlers side of the story. The spirit side of the story is you're coming and you're destroying this island. You are uprooting everything. You are out of touch with nature. And we, as the spirits of this island, are going to do everything we can to get you off this island. And it is a cooperative game. It is one of the heaviest, crunchiest co-op games there is on the market. It's got a wonderful story to tell that's just really, really neat. Which is all about, the people of the island that are in communion with nature. The indigenous people, they're the ones that, we're trying to protect from the onslaught of colonization. And it's just a blast. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think the most important thing is this is a cooperative game where everybody, I was going to say takes their turn at the same time. That's not quite. There's like a planning phase for every round where everybody can plan out exactly what they're going to do. And we're working on this. So there's kind of like, it's less structured and regimented than most cooperative games. And that makes it really, really special. It's special in a lot of ways. My only problem with it is, man, it's a long game. Glenmore, which is why I'm going to give it to Glenmore. Because Glenmore is a fantastic competitive tile laying engine building game where, on your turn, you're trying to build up your own little glen, your own little Glenmore in the Scottish Highlands, and more Glen for me, please. And I'm going to take a tile, I'm going to put it into my little grouping of tiles. I'm going to activate that tile and every tile that's adjacent to it, north, south, east, and west. So once I put a tile down, and it's next to another tile, so you always have to expand, that means I've already activated that tile once. I have the chance to potentially activate that tile more times by putting more tiles next to it. And it is just an incredible puzzle trying to decide how you want, the order you want to put these tiles into play. And then on top of that, the way you draft the tiles is based on one of the best implementations of a time track I have ever seen in board gaming. It's just fantastic every step of the way. Now you will notice, this is the original Glenmore. I own both Glenmore and Glenmore 2 Chronicles. It is one of the rare times when I just subsume. I don't list both Gloomhaven and Frosthaven on my collection list. I just say, look, I've got Gloomhaven, and I consider Frosthaven to really kind of be an extension of Gloomhaven. Glenmore 2 is not. Glenmore 2 radically changed some core things about the game. So I rank Glenmore 2 independently of Glenmore. And honestly, I rank the original Glenmore higher than Glenmore 2. And I rank Glenmore higher than Spirit Island. Okay. And I just clicked the wrong thing. What did I just do? Oh, whoops, I clicked OBS. I needed to click over here. There it is. In my browser, Glenmore is chosen. Okay. Siberia, the card game, versus Stellar, the card game. Okay, interesting. These are both of these games are basically just a deck of cards. I think Siberia? No, I think all the resources are represented by cards in Siberia too. So they're both just a deck of cards. Siberia is a very interesting game where we are trying to extract resources, oil and gas and I forget what else. From Siberia. And every turn you've got a handful of cards, and these are multi-use cards. Each card says, oh, I could do this action or this action, but it can't do it alone. If I've got 2 natural gas cards in my hand, remember each card has 2 actions on it, I can play both of them, not for whatever else they might be, like a salesman or a contractor. I ignore one half of them and I say, oh, I'm going to play both these for natural gas. That means I can extract natural gas and do this kind of card tableau building set collection thing to score points. But if I want to extract natural gas and I've only got 1 natural gas card in my hand and I don't have a second one so that I can put them into a pair with these multi-use cards, what I can instead do is trash 2 other cards. So I can basically spend 3 cards to do what should only cost 2 cards to do. And so the hand management of these multi-use cards are great. It's a really cool game. Very, very cool. I think at one point I put it like in my top 10, either my top 10 card games or my top 10 I put it in a top 10 at one point. I think maybe filler games many, many years ago, back when we were still in Malta. And I have not played it since then. But that is only because of the nature of my existence where I never get to go back and play things I love. Which is why, boy, I'd love to play it just thinking about it now. Because it was so sharp. Stellar is a card game. It is, I think, even sharper. I'm going to go with stellar. It's a game where we're basically, if I recall, I think we are amateur astronomers with just a telescope trying to map the stars and make notes of our observations and whatnot. And this is a card drafting game where there's a group of cards out there that represent different stellar bodies that we can observe. And the thing is, and we got some in our hand. And the thing is, when we play a card, into this tableau of, we're kind of do like tile laying with our cards, trying to get the right cards next to each other. Depending on how we play a card, that determines what card from the central portion of the board we can grab. So if I play this card in this spot, that means I could grab that card from that spot and add it to my hand. And I really want to get that card from the center, but I do not have a card that I really want to put in this spot to grab that card. So how am I going to reconcile that? And this playing and drafting are so brilliantly entwined, and it's just so pretty that I'm going to have to give it to stellar. Yeah. Okay, then we've got Encyclopedia versus Pocket Master Builder. Okay, these are both newer games. We had a bunch of old games today. Encyclopedia is a dice worker placement game where we are literally all contributing to the world's first encyclopedia ever. It's actually based on the real act of creating the first Encyclopedia Britannica, because we use our dice through worker placement to go out into the field to study things, to raise funds so that we can do these expeditions, and we need to get all this information about different flora and fauna from different places around the world so we can publish our fundings and contribute to the encyclopedia. And the interesting thing is, at the beginning of your round, you roll your dice, you lock them into little silos, and then when players start doing their worker placement, they don't have to use their own dice. You could use my dice. But if you come over and grab one of my dice, because it's a more valuable one for you, whatever silo I put it in determines what bonus I get from you using my die. And that's a really, really cool system that, it's kind of an alternate to take on Trois, and it's just a lot of fun. Pocket Master Builder, meanwhile, is a brilliant little... it's just a deck of cards where we are, how to describe this? Okay, here's the deal. I feel like I played this a few times with Jen, and then I played it solo, and now all I can remember is the solo game, which actually kind of changed the rules a little bit. You know what? What are we at? We're at 36 minutes in, folks. As per usual, I think I am going to end with a cliffhanger here. Encyclopedia versus Pocket Master Builder. Which one should get it? Say in the comments right now, if you know both these games, which one do you think I'm going to go with? Honestly, I don't know, because I need to go back and refresh my memory on Pocket Master Builder a little bit today. So I think that is where we are going to end it. Let me save my progress. Last time we did this on April 12th. It is now May 7th. Last time I know I was at 7%. Please tell me we are at 8% now. All right. Oh, it doesn't tell me that here. We've updated the list. If I come back over here, we're at 8%. Woohoo! We crossed a percentage line. And was this the 8th episode? If so, I think that means we're on track. I think it gives you an idea of how long I'm going to be doing this. If I get a percent done every episode, I'm not sure. But folks, that is it. Another ranking is done. Now, we're jumping into it. If you've missed the previous rankings, I've ranked a whole bunch more games. You can hit that I in the top right corner of the screen, or heck, don't even do that. Look, there's a button on screen that lets you go listen to all the other rankings that have come before. Well, if you're familiar with the channel, there's some other stuff you can click as well. So I'm just going to end it right there, folks. Click something on the screen, or just subscribe so you don't miss the next ranking. Have a nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye.